I'm here to teach and comfort people. I'm on CI self and many others who are dealing with music the right way, as Moses and reggae music especially is the rod. See, I'm gonna say music is the rod and we are Moses, leading God's children to the promised land.
28-year-old entertainer Garnett Silk is dead. He and his 53-year-old mother, Dulce Gray, were burnt to death in her one-apartment house at Hatfield District near Mandeville. Since the incident, the Mandeville police and forensic experts have been working round the clock to find out just how Garnett Silk and his mother died.
The latest on that incident is that we have finally classified that as an accidental death as a result of a cylinder that exploded when it was hit by a round from a shotgun.
Hello everybody, you're welcome back to another round on the Reggae Appreciation Society. In this video we're taking a look at the incredible story of Garnett Silk. It wouldn't really be an exaggeration to say that Garnett Silk, the unbelievably gifted singer and songwriter who passed away at the age of 28, is one of the most important figures in the history of reggae music. During his short but luminous career, he was celebrated by many as the next Bob Marley. After several years of the dominance of the slackness of dancehall, replete with lewd lyrics and brimming with violent, sex and gritty street life stories, it was Garnett Silk that inspired the resurgence of roots reggae and the traditional messages of spirituality and consciousness in the early 1990s. A movement that became to be known as the Rasta Renaissance that included the likes of Buju Banton, Luciano, Anthony B, and many more. Garnett Silk's deep inspirational lyrics, delivered in his marvelous vocal stylings, were an awesome throwback to the golden era of reggae that many thought was gone for good, and charted a course that reggae follows till today. Garnett Silk was born Garnett Damian Smith on the 2nd of April in 1966 in Bromelia, Jamaica. He grew up in the Hatfield district and attended Hatfield All-Age School. He wasn't really into regular schoolwork, but was very enthusiastic about football and became popular at school due to his DJing and singing skills. He first performed at the age of 12 with a sound system under the stage name Little Bimbo. He became a regular performer and changed his stage name to Garnett Silk when he turned 19. The same year, he released his first single, Problem Everywhere, and while a competent act, it was not until he moved to Kingston in 1988 that he became a force in the reggae industry. It was while working as a DJ on a sound system that he met Tony Rebel, and the two began to work together and became something of a duo. He was introduced to the teachings of Rastafari by Tony Rebel and dub poet Yusuf Afari. His new faith totally changed his life, and he became something of a teacher and a prophet. Buju Banton and Luciano have stated in several interviews how Silk influenced them to embrace spirituality and search for God. Buju in particular said that the bulk of their conversations were always about the Bible and lessons in scripture. Tony Chinloy, a veteran producer who worked closely with Silk, told a story about how two hoodlums who had kidnapped Silk in his car were scared into letting him go when lightning began to flash furiously around them when Silk started talking about the word of Jah. This experience inspired the song Too Frightened to Be Scared. Garnett Silk began as a DJ, but in 1989, veteran singer Derek Morgan advised him to move from toasting to singing, and he was suddenly in high demand due to his powerful and smooth vocal style. He was now doing plenty of sessions and recording for some of the biggest producers in Jamaica, like King Tubby, Prince Jammy, and Donovan Jermaine, before signing a 2-year contract with Steely and Clevie Records in 1990. His deal with the label didn't work out, and he moved back home to Manchester, Jamaica in frustration and began to work furiously on writing new songs. Tony Rebel came to the rescue when he introduced Silk to Courtney Cole, the CEO of Roof International Label Records, where Silk recorded a large number of songs that got him signed to VP Records eventually. His debut album, It's Growing, came out in 1992 and was loaded with cultural themes, spiritual songs, and romantic numbers. It was the best-selling album of that year in Jamaica, and the single Hey Mama Africa became an international smash hit which topped the UK reggae charts that year. His next album, released the next year, titled Gold, was an even bigger hit and had big songs like Zion Innovation and Place in Your Heart. Silk was suddenly catapulted to #1 on the reggae charts in Jamaica, the US, Britain, Canada, and Japan. But 1993 was an extremely busy year for him, and he toured the globe, filling up clubs and concert halls in America, England, Japan, and Bermuda. The tour schedule was so tasking that on July the 16th of that year, he had to walk up the stage in the middle of a performance in New York. He was diagnosed with low blood pressure and exhaustion and was forced to take a rest and miss what would have been an awesome debut at Reggae Sumfest that summer. The young man was setting the industry alight with his brilliance and spiritual content, inspiring a whole new generation of artists that would toe his roots reggae line. Artists like Sizzler, Anthony B, Capleton, Luciano, Kezidek, Lutan Fire, and Jesse Royal were the nucleus of this group, and as said earlier, they came to be known as the leaders of the Rasta Renaissance that began in the 90s. By early 1994, Silk was fully rested and ready to resume. He had just signed his first major deal with Atlantic Records and staged his comeback performance at Rebel Salute that year in January. The Mandeville Entertainment Center, where the show was held, was packed full, and fans waited in the rain until 6 a.m. to see the return of Garnett Silk. He toured extensively thereafter, and that summer delivered sizzling and fantastic performances at Reggae Sunsplash and Reggae Sumfest. The billing he got as the next Bob Marley didn't come from the fans alone, but was also attested to by some of Jamaica's finest musicians and producers that worked with him, names like Sly and Robbie, Earl Wyalindo, Dean Fraser, and Sticky Thompson. Silk always insisted that real instruments be used in the studio for his music. According to his producer, he worked in the old-fashioned way, the Bob Marley way. It was revealed that when Sly Dunbar came to work with Silk, he hadn't played a real drum kit in 5 years, but was forced to. Garnett Silk was now at the top of his game, signed to an international record label, making loads of money, and set to take over the world. But on Friday the 9th, 1994, he travelled to Mandeville, where his mother lived, and was billed to perform at a show that evening, being held at the Midway Mall. He was hanging out with some friends outside his mother's house, and it was reported that Silk, who was becoming concerned for his safety due to his rising profile, had borrowed a gun for self-defense, but didn't know how to use it. A friend was teaching him how to use the shotgun when he misfired and hit a propane tank that set the house on fire. Silk, with his 2 brothers and friends, made it out safely, only to find out that Silk's mother was still trapped in the inferno. He rushed back in to save her, but neither of them made it out alive. Luciano had just finished performing at the concert where Silk was supposed to play that night right after him, and he went outside and noticed a fire in the distance. In an interview, Luciano stated that he didn't know that his close friend and colleague had died in that same fire. Garnett Silk's lovely wife, Lovey, gave birth to their 4th child, Garnet Jr., on April the 3rd, 1995, just 4 months after the fire and a day after his father's birthday. So Garnett Silk died just as he was on the cusp of megastardom, but he left behind a legacy of unstoppable eternal music, a reggae revival, and the birth of a movement that still shines bright and will continue for a long time to come. So there you have it. Thank you for watching the video today. Please leave a like, subscribe, and until next time, God bless.